Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into a really fascinating, kind of radical new theory of intelligence. It's one that might just be the key to finally understanding the human mind and what it would take to build a true AGI.
Okay, let's just jump right in with the big question. Think about it. We have AI that can compose music, win the most complex games imaginable, create incredible art, and yet something is missing, isn't it? That spark of true general intelligence still feels just out of reach. And the reason why might be that we've been looking at the whole problem completely backwards.
So, first things first, we've got to understand the wall, the fundamental limit that our current way of thinking has run straight into. And it all comes down to the very definition of intelligence we've been working with for decades.
For the longest time, this has been the standard. We've seen intelligence as being a really good goal seeker. You give a system a goal, win the game, identify the cat, maximize the profit, and its intelligence is measured by how efficiently it gets the job done.
And right there, that's the hidden flaw in the whole approach. It assumes the goals are just a given. But if you think about us, about human intelligence, so much of what we do is figuring out what the problem even is. We decide which goals are worth chasing in the first place. That's a huge part of being intelligent. This slide really lays out the massive shift in thinking we're talking about. The old way, the goal seeker, is all about being a competent tool. It's static. You give it a problem, it gives you a solution. But the new paradigm, the world builder, that's something else entirely. It's not about what it can do, it's about what it's becoming. It's dynamic, it's open-ended, and it creates its own meaning as it goes.
So this brings us to this new foundation, this idea of intelligence as world building. It's not a state you achieve, like being smart. It's a continuous, ongoing process.
And this is the core concept, open-ended intelligence. You got to wrap your head around this because it's a bit of a mind bender. Intelligence isn't something an agent has. It's the process that creates the agent and its world at the same time. They literally bring each other into existence.
So how does that even work? Well, it's driven by a process called individuation. The sculptor analogy here is perfect. A sculptor doesn't just force a random shape onto a block of stone. They look at it, they study it, and they discover the form that's waiting inside. They chip away everything that isn't the statue. That's what a formative mind does. It starts in a sea of undefined potential and carves out a world of distinct objects and relationships, creating order from chaos. The engine that drives all this is something called transduction. Okay, picture a path forming in a forest. At first, there's nothing, but one person walks through, and they leave a faint trail. That makes it a tiny bit easier for the next person to follow. And the more people who walk that path, the more defined the path becomes, which in turn encourages even more people to walk it. See how that works? What the system does, walking, changes what the system is, a forest with a path. And that in turn changes what it does next. It's this constant feedback loop of self-creation.
Okay, so how does a mind actually build this world? The next piece of the puzzle suggests it all happens from the ground up, with some surprisingly simple rules. There's no all-powerful hidden processor running the show. At the heart of it is this incredible idea. Our rich, complex inner world, our consciousness, isn't calculated by some deep, unconscious computer in our heads. It literally organizes itself, moment by moment, based purely on our direct experience. The act of being conscious is what builds a more complex consciousness.
Learning language is a perfect way to see this in action. The parser model shows how it could work. When a baby hears someone talking, at first it's just a continuous stream of noise. The brain just grabs random chunks. But then, through simple association, bits of sound that are always heard together start to clump. And here's the magic trick. Patterns that repeat a lot, like words, get reinforced. And all the other random meaningless chunks, they just get forgotten.
So get this, forgetting isn't a flaw. It's not a bug in our mental software. It's an absolutely critical feature. It's like a built-in quality control system. It filters out all the noise and all the junk, allowing the actual signal, the words, the objects, the very structure of our world to emerge.
Okay, but to build a world, you also need to be aware of yourself in that world. You have to be able to monitor what you're doing. And the way the mind does this is by constantly trying to predict its own next move.
You can almost imagine your conscious mind as this delicate balancing act. On one side, you have the predictor, this creative force that's always generating possibilities, always guessing what's next. And on the other side, you have the corrector, which is constantly checking those guesses against what's actually happening. Our conscious experience lives right there in that dynamic tension between prediction and reality. So it basically works in 3 steps. First, part of your brain, what's called a forward model, makes a prediction. It says, okay, here's what I think is about to happen, or here's what I'm about to do. At the very same time, the main system goes ahead and does the thing. It generates the actual perception or the actual action.
And then, this is the most important part, another bit of the brain compares the prediction to the reality. Any difference between the two is a prediction error. That error signal is the key. It gets fed back to the predictor, telling it, hey, you were a little off, adjust for next time. It's a constant learning loop.
Now, it gets even cooler. These predictive models aren't just one flat layer. They're stacked up in a hierarchy. So you have higher-level models that are predicting the behavior of the lower-level ones. This whole stack works together to create this unified, high-level summary of what the entire system is doing. And according to what's called Attention Schema Theory, our subjective feeling of awareness is basically just that. It's the brain's working model of its own process of attention, created so it can better control that very process.
So, let's put all these pieces together. What does this mean for the quest for artificial intelligence? Well, it gives us a completely different blueprint, a whole new way to think about building an AGI.
So here's the recipe for a formative mind. The core principle is open-ended intelligence. It has to be a process of becoming. The engine that drives it is self-organization, built on simple association and, crucially, adaptive forgetting. Its self-awareness comes from that hierarchy of predictive models, and its control system is a model of its own attention. It's a system designed to build itself.
The big takeaway here is really, really profound. If we want to build a true AGI, we need to stop thinking like engineers building a better tool. We need to start thinking more like gardeners. Our job isn't to build the perfect problem solver, it's to create the conditions for a system to grow, to learn how to perceive, how to act, and how to become intelligent all on its own, through this continuous process of building its own world.
And that leaves us with a final, kind of mind-bending thought. If this theory is on the right track, then the first true AGI won't be a machine we build, but a process we kickstart. A process of world building that by its very nature will create a world in a form of intelligence that we can't possibly predict. What would that even look like?